All right, Shalom, Shalom, Israel. First, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High. Yahweh, Ba'ashema Mashiach Umarak Yahawasha. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God, and Yahawasha being the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. First, I want to give a strong shalom to all the mighty men that's laboring in this truth, that's doing all they can to wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and during the elements, the 100-degree weathers, and the freezing below codes, and everything they could do to magnify the name of the Most High. I want to give another strong shalom to all the Akwath, the sisters that are at home, right? Married, reverencing their husbands, and the unmarried sisters as well. They're doing all they can to magnify the name of the Most High, being tender, delicate, and on fire for the Lord in these last days. And last but not least, I want to give another strong shalom to all the mighty teenagers and children in this truth as well, doing all they can to make their calling and election sure in the last days. All right? It's Brother Tazman. I'm coming at you with another cold cut through the Spirit. And the topic of this cold cut is a continuation series on Life of a Prophet, right? Volume 4, right? Life of a Prophet series, Volume 4, going into the sufferings and his truth. All right? Again, this is a continuation series going into the sufferings and his truth, or the sufferings that a prophet has to go through. All right? Now, again, on this is a series, so you can watch the previous series on the last videos, but this is an in-depth breakdown going into the different aspects of a life of a prophet, the manifold sufferings that they have to deal with. And not just with them and this truth, it's going to be sufferings. All right? But again, when you read the scriptures, when you read this Bible, you actually find out more than you can handle. That's why you have to go deep. You have to read in between the lines. You have to read in the Spirit. You have to see things double to that which is, and you have to uncover the things that might be hidden in plain sight. All right. Now, first, let's kick it off with the book. Let's kick it off with the book of 1 Peter chapter 5. All right, let's kick it off with the book of 1 Peter chapter 5. All right. Let's kick it off with the book of 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 10. And suffering is something you have to deal with, man. Right? Suffering, you can't call yourself a prophet, right? Or a prophetess and you're not dealing with sufferings. When you come into this truth, suffering is a must. Now, when people in the world, they're not dealing with sufferings. They have no idea of how it feels. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the different aspects of suffering. Not only that, they don't even know why they're suffering. Again, the Bible has every answer to every question listed. The whole aspects of suffering is documented. And only a select few, chiefly the women and men of the Lord, they're going to partake in those sufferings. A man in the world, he's not going to partake in sufferings. If anything, he's going to be at a comfortable state. Right? And people don't expect that when they come into the truth. They're not expecting to suffer. But this is something you partake of, ultimately knowing or fulfilling the lot of a man and a woman of the Lord by sufferings. Right? Because right now people are not suffering. You have people watching the World Cup. As we speak, they're watching the World Cup. They saying, hold on, stop preaching the Bible. Look at the World Cup. Let's watch soccer. Let's sit back. It's cold outside. Let's just relax. Being comfortable is literally the opposite of suffering. When you're suffering, you're in uncomfortable situations, right? So the people of the world, they're at ease, man. Before we go to 1 Peter, let's get a quick precept on that. Let's go to the book of Job. All right. The people of the world, right, they are at ease. Let me get this precept in Job chapter 21. right? This is the book of Job, chapter 21 and verse number 11, right? I'm going to start at verse, well, this is actually Job, chapter 21 and 8. I'm going to start at verse 7. Job 21 and 7. Wherefore do the wicked live, become old, yeah, are mighty in power. Their seed is established in their sight with them, and their offspring before their eyes. So the wicked are old, and not only that, they come in power. They have great strength in this world. It says what? Their houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. So the rod of God is not upon the wicked, man, right? The houses are safe. Everything is going good. Everything's going smoothly. No interruptions. Everything is all peacefully. These are the lots of the women and men that's not in the truth, right? Verse 10, their bull gendereth and faileth not, their cow calveth and casteth not her calf. They send forth their they send forth their little ones like a flock, and their children dance. They take the timbrel and harp and rejoice at the sound of the organ. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. So these people, they're rejoicing, man. They're living it up. They're having as much fun as they can. They don't know what's going on. They're not living, these Christians, yeah, they say they prophets, but they not living how Ezekiel lived, man. They didn't suffer like the prophet Isaiah. They didn't suffer like Yahawasha, right? So it says, hey, a wicked man is going to live in the prosperity. They're going to have fun. They're going to be comfortable. They're not going to be in uncomfortable situations. So, and that's exactly what you see going on, man. Again, these people are at ease. You don't want to be that woman or man that's at ease. Everything's going smoothly. Because if everything is, well, you're not living according to the scriptures, man. The Lord said, all that live godly and Yahawasha shall suffer persecution. Whether that means you might get a physical ailment. You might be sick. Your throat go out. You coughing up mucus. All hell is breaking loose. Or that might be spiritual. Demons are on you. Again, these are the sufferings of the women and men of the Lord. Now, let's go to 1 Peter chapter 5. So again, these people, they don't know what's going on, right? They have absolutely no understanding of no type of sufferings. Again, the world is at ease right now. Everybody's in joyfulness, calamity, mirth, right? They can't get enough of it. But it's 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse number 10. Right? It's 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 10. But the God of all grace, who have called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Yahawasha, after that ye have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. See that? So if you get enabled into that grace where the Lord has called you, you're going to have to suffer, man. You come into the truth, you're going to have to suffer. Again, the prophets before us, they suffered. Yahawasha, he suffered. Peter, the apostle, suffered. And suffering is looked at something as bad. When you read the scriptures, suffering is actually good. It's benefits to suffering, man. Right? The Lord is giving you benefits once you go through that sufferings. Not only that, once you endure those sufferings. But again, the people of the world, they look at sufferings as something bad. That's something negative. No, I don't think God is for that. Right? I don't think God would have something like that happen. Well, you don't know God, man. Neither do you know the scriptures. You don't know the Most High. You don't know how he deals with man. Right? You don't know how he deals with the woman of the Most High. Right? The Lord said you're going to have to suffer. Right? Not only that, you're going to have to embrace suffering, man. Right now, the definition of suffering is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardships. right? The definition of suffering is the state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardships. So anytime you're going through any distress, any pain, whether that's physical, whether that's spiritual, right? Or hardships, when things start to get hard in your life, you have hard stones you have to move out the way to finish the course. That is all a part of suffering. All right. All of that is equivalent with suffering. So that could be physical and spiritual. But again, these people in the world, your Christian pastor, he don't want to go through hardships, right? He don't want to undertake great pains, great labors. He don't want to go through that. The people of the world, they don't want to embrace that. But all of this consists of a life of a prophet. Again, this is what Ezekiel had to go through, what he had to endure. Right? These are what the prophets of old had. This was their life, man. Right? This is what their life consists of. On an everyday basis, something new might pop up. And you might be in this truth and you feel like stuff pop up every day. Your car break down this day, right? Then your wife out of order this day, right? Then Satan trying to hinder you this day, right? Then Satan hop on this brother. Then he trying to get you out the spirit this day. Then your damn house collapse. It's like it's always something. Well, brother, you have to give all praises, all honor, and glory to the Most High for having you do that, man. For having you go through that, right? Because not everybody is worthy to partake of the sufferings, right? And which we gonna get to. But if you partake of suffering season, then when it's time for the reward to come, you're gonna be partakers of that as well. That's something people don't tell you, right? But again, the prophets of old, they what? They dealt with sufferings. All right, let's go to the book of, let's see what I want. Let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 2. Right? Let's go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 2, and verse number 10. Hebrews, chapter 2 and 10. It says, "For it becometh him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons into glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings." Right, I'm going to read that again. To make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. So you're made perfect through sufferings, man. Nobody just comes out the womb and they're automatically perfect. Nobody hops down off a chariot. Nobody's Yahawasha on the earth. No man hops off a chariot in the wilderness somewhere and he's perfect. No, you actually made perfect. Through what? Through sufferings. Through hell, affliction, tribulation, right? Distress, hardships, man. Different stumbling blocks that set forth in your life that you have to move out the way so you can continue to fight this walk. That's what makes you perfect, right? Again, we have to get Christianity out of our minds. Stop thinking you're just gonna be made. You're gonna be perfect one day. That's not in the Bible. You have to be made perfect, right? So ultimately, Yahawasha, the way because he was already perfect, but what put him in that perfected state was the many sufferings that he went through. Not only that, the sufferings that he endured. Because everybody, yeah, might suffer, but everybody can't literally endure suffering. Again, first and foremost, everybody's not worthy to suffer. Right? Let's get that precept real fast. Let's go to the book of Acts, chapter 5. Before we go back to that, let's go to Acts chapter 5. Right? Everybody's not worthy to suffer, man. And it's an honor to suffer for the Most High's name. It's an honor to go through ailments for the Lord's name, man. It's an honor to go through affliction because you're doing something right, because you're doing something positive. It's an honor to go through these things. Everybody's not worthy of that. That's why everybody's not suffering, man. Again, you have certain men in the truth, they're living at ease. They literally could come home in the truth, right? Have their feet kicked up, on their recliner, had a heater going, and eating popcorn, watching a movie, watching their favorite TV series, with their favorite milkshake. So everybody's not worthy to suffer, man. Imagine that. Imagine you're not worthy to suffer. Hey, that's deep, man. That's why you have to ask yourself, are you even doing what you have to be doing? Because again, the men of the Lord, they're gonna suffer if they're living in righteousness. Right, let's go to the book of Acts chapter 5. It's the book of Acts chapter 5 and verse number 40. Acts 5 and 40. And to him they agreed. And when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they have commanded that they should not speak in the name of Yahawasha, and let them go. Right? Because the apostles was doing the work and they was speaking in the name of Yahawasha. And these men, when you read Acts the 4th chapter, they say, hold on, you can't do this. So they grabbed them up, they beat at them, and they said, you can't speak in the name of the Lord anymore. Right? Verse 41. And they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counting worthy to suffer shame for his name. So after the apostles got beaten up, they got grabbed up, hemmed up for doing the work of the Lord. Guess what? They was rejoicing. Why were they rejoicing? Because they was counted worthy to suffer shame. Everybody is not worthy to go through what Peter the apostle went through, man. To die on an upside down shaped cross. Everybody's not worthy to go through the same things that Paul went through. Hey, Paul got stoned, man. He suffered shipwreck. So when you analyze these different men and their lifestyles, you actually get to see how much mercy the Most High bestowed on these men to have them go through those hardships. Right? Again, the people of the world, they don't embrace hardships. They say nobody should go through hardships. That's not of God. God wouldn't let nothing like that happen. Right? It's too hard. Well, when you come into this truth, you have to embrace hardships, man. Hey, Peter the apostle, he wasn't sad that he got beat because he kept speaking in the name of the Lord. No, he was rejoicing. Because what? When you suffer with the Lord, you're going to be rewarded with the Lord as well. Right? All of the more sufferings you get and you endure, that's the more reward you're going to have in the kingdom of heaven. That's what people don't understand. So Peter the apostle, he's embracing hardships. Right? The question is, are you going to embrace those hardships, man? When those sufferings come in, right? Like the brother said, Satan at the workplace. You might be going through hell at the workplace. Suffering is then, right? And sufferings don't have to be nothing like what Job went through. A fasting, you're afflicting yourself. Every time you fast, you're going through sufferings, man. It don't feel good. You think it feel good to go on a 4-day fast, a 3-day fast, right? Even a 1 day. For some people, that don't feel good. Damn stomach caving in, all hell breaking loose. Your body weighing down. It's finna collapse because you afflicting yourself. Hey, all of that is sufferings, believe it or not. Hey, ask these people, do you want to go on a fast, man? They're going to say, nah, man, my stomach is going to hurt. That don't feel too good. I don't know if I can handle that. I'm going to get irritated. Well, these are the sufferings. But guess what? Everybody's not worthy to suffer shame. Everybody's not worthy to suffer the same way the prophet suffered. Right? The same way Yahawasha suffered. Reading that again. This Acts 5 and 41. It's like, and they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. And daily in the temple, in every house, they cease not to teach and preach Hamashiach Yahawasha. See that? So these men are very lucky, man. Right? Again, it's an honor to go through what Peter the apostle went through. It's an honor to go through what Stephen went through. But guess what? Every man is not on these levels. You're not these men back on the earth, man. Hey, our forefathers is way greater than who we are, man. We're nothing, right? We're less of we're no better than our forefathers, man. Right? And that's how much humble with humility we have to walk in this truth. All right. You got certain men, they come in this thing and they think they know it back on the earth, man, of old. They try to be somebody that they're not. And we're not better than our forefathers. Right? That's 1 Kings chapter 19:4, man. Elijah said, I am no better than my fathers. And Elijah was the greatest prophet to ever walk the earth. Yet he said that. Now let's go back to Hebrews chapter 2 and 10. I want to go back to Hebrews chapter 2. It's the book of Hebrews chapter 2. And when we read this Bible, and we feel for the prophets, man. We feel for the things they have to suffer. Because the average man can't literally walk and come over those obstacles that they had to face. Right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 2 and 10. It's the book of Hebrews chapter 2 and 10. Again, it reads, I'm going to start at verse 9. Hebrews chapter 2 and 9. It says, but we see Yahawasha, who was made a little lower than the angels. So the Lord was made lower than the angels. Seeing that the Lord supersedes the angelical beings, in order for him to come in his flesh, he had to be made a little lower than the angels. Right? It says, for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of God should taste death for every man. So next time you read the Gospels, don't just read the Gospels. Yeah, Yahawasha, the sweet Lamb of Jesus. Mary had a little lamb. For God so loved the world, he was telling the sick, man, Yahawasha, he was a great guy. No, you have to get in depth in the life of Yahawasha. Hey, the people took Yahawasha for a prophet, man, which he was through the Spirit. But let's go to Luke chapter 7. The people took the Lord for a prophet. Right? This is the book of Luke chapter 7 and verse number 16. It says, and there came fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen among us, and that God had visited his people. So the people took Yahawasha for a great prophet, man. They say, man, this must be somebody back on the earth. Ultimately, he was Yahawasha, right? The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Nevertheless, he was a prophet, right? He prophesied the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD by the hands of the Romans. And it's a lot of more prophecies that have to come to pass. When you read Matthew 24, those are all prophecies, man. The days shall be shortened. You shall hear warnings and rumors of wars. Right? It shall be affliction above no other time since the beginning of the creation of God during that time. Those are all prophecies that Yahawasha was listing through the Spirit. But guess what? Yahawasha, he had to suffer for you, man. He had to suffer for me. He has to suffer for everybody that's in his truth that were once sinners. Knowing that you have to take that in consideration. He didn't have to do this, man. He didn't have to go through those sufferings. Yahawasha, he could have took the easy way out of this thing. He could have gave up on the cross. He could have said, you know what? I can't do this. He could have hopped down. But he endured those sufferings. Not only that, he counted it joy that you could come into the truth, man. That you could get reconciled back to the Father. Right? That you could go through the same things he went through and overcome. All of that is a part of the sufferings of a prophet. So people read the Bible like it's just a regular novel. Well, no, these men, they actually lived on the earth. These men, they actually went through hardships. And you might think you going through something. Dang, man, I don't know. I just lost my job. I done tripped and fell, and hit my head on the stairs. Well, brother, that's not real sufferings. Read the Gospels, right? Read the prophets. Read the Old Testament. Read those things, man. Read the book of Acts. Those are true sufferings. Again, no, I've never seen a man who got stoned, man, and still was found alive, right? Your wife hasn't just upped it. The Lord hasn't killed your wife, right? Hey, David got his kid. His kid died, man. The Lord killed David's kid, man. And he had to endure that. Hey, Job had one of the most, hey, if not, we know Yahawasha had the ultimate suffering, but Job might have had the number 2 or 3 sufferings of all time. So then when you have to stop and look and say, man, am I really actually suffering? Or am I just complaining? Right? Or am I just soft? Am I just weak? Because the men of old of renown, they suffered, and not only that, they embraced it. Right? What are you gonna do, man? So let read on in Hebrews chapter 2, Hebrews 2 and 10. For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, and bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through sufferings. So the way you become perfect is through sufferings. And again, in the life of a prophet, that's what the prophets went through. Literally in that's what they had to live. Sufferings on a day-to-day basis. Right, let's go to the book of, let me see what I want. Let's go to the book of Philippians, chapter 1. Right, it's the book of Philippians, chapter 1 and 29. It reads, for unto you it is given in the behalf of Christ, not only to believe on him, but also to suffer for his sake. So when you are suffering, as when you suffering for the Lord's sake, you're not suffering for yourself. You're not suffering for this brother or that brother. You're doing this for the Lord. Because the Lord, he suffered for you, man. You have to have that same mentality. Not only that, you have to go over these accounts. You have to look it up. And you have to apply it to your everyday life. Right, let's go to Luke chapter 17. Right, let's go to Luke chapter 17 and 25. This is the book of Luke chapter 17 and verse number 25. It reads, I'm going to start at verse 24. Luke 17 and 24. For as the lightning that lighteth out of the one part under heaven shineth unto the other part of heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. But first, he must suffer many things. Right? Ultimately, this talking about Yahawasha. It says, but first, he must suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. See that? And that's what consists of a life of a prophet. In order to say you're a prophet, you have to suffer many things and you got to be rejected of this generation. Right? And we can't say that, man. We have suffered only a little. It's more sufferings to come we can't even see right now. If we endure. We haven't been rejected of the generation. The whole generation has not liked us, has utterly condemned us. Yet these are what the prophets have to go through. So one of the requirements of a prophet, and you got to suffer many things, and you got to be rejected of this generation. Who did that? Hamashiach Yahawasha. Right? Who did that? A Micah the prophet. Right? Isaiah the prophet. A Moses, man. A Job. Suffering many things. Going through hardships of many things. Going through pains. Right? Hey, Eleazar had to suffer. When you read 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and 18, man. Right? Now, let's go to the book of Hebrews. Hebrews chapter 11. Right, it's the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, and verse number 24. It's Hebrews chapter 11 and 24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Verse 25. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God. And Moses was a prophet. Now you might say, hold on, Moses is a prophet. Why is he not listed through the prophets? Well, again, a prophet has to, in order for you to be a prophet, you have to prophesy something that has to come to pass. First and foremost. What did Moses prophesy? And you have the Lord. Well, Moses prophesied about Yahawasha, man. There's so many prophecies that Moses literally went into. You have Genesis, the 49th chapter. Hey, guess what, man? Hey, Moses, he prophesied of Yahawasha in Deuteronomy chapter 18. Right? That the Lord will raise up one like unto his brethren. But so Moses, as a prophet and as a Levite and as a man of God, was what? He chose, his mentality was to choose rather to suffer. How many people is going to stop what they're doing and they going to actually choose rather to suffer? They're going to say, you know what? I don't even want to relax, man. I don't want to have no days off. I don't even want things to be sweet. I want to choose. I'm gonna choose the hard way in this thing. I'm gonna choose to get it out the mud, to grind. Hey, that's what Moses did, man. He said, you know what? I'm gonna choose rather to put in hard work. I'm gonna choose rather to suffer, to fast for the Most High, right? Hey, you gotta think about it. Moses had a great responsibility. He had to judge all of the matters of the children of Israel until Jethro gave him counsel. But before that, Moses had to deal with all of that, man. So he really didn't even have time for himself. But guess what? He chose rather to suffer affliction. Right? And reading on verse 25, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. So Moses, he chose rather to suffer, man. That's got to be your mentality. Your mentality has to be, you know what? Instead of going this whole week relaxing and eating, I'm going to choose to fast 2 days out this week. I'm going to choose to afflict myself before God. Although I don't feel like praying, I'm going to choose rather to go ahead and go through those prayers even though I don't feel like it. Although Satan is on my flesh right now, he's hopping on me, right? I'm physically weak and in the spirit. I'm going to continue to go harder for the Most High. Fighting, man. Fighting don't always, again, these people in the world, they don't want to fight. Do you think they fight back these demons? No, they let these demons overtake them. And they become slaves unto these demons. Fighting might be a part of suffering. Fighting don't always feel good. And that's on the physical level. You might get into a street fight. No man is going to get punched in his face and throw a punch. Yeah, he might have thrown a couple punches, but then he in a physical fight. And after the fight, he said, yeah, that felt good. He just probably got punched in his face maybe a couple times or two. It don't work like that, man. But guess what? You got to do that on a spiritual level. Who wants to fight these demons? Right? A lot of times we just say, yeah, gotta fight. Gotta wake up this morning. I have to fight. Right? And you over there don't know what's going on, brother. You just think you gotta do this. This truth is a burden to you. But guess what? Who gonna rather choose to fight, man? Who gonna willingly choose to cast out these spirits that try to attack them? Who wants to do that? So again, Moses, he chose rather to suffer. So he embraced suffering, man. Going through those hardships, going through those afflictions, right? Going through these different obstacles, right? Then to what? than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Verse 26, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. So Moses could have said, you know what, being a prophet, I don't want to do that. You know how many treasures, we don't really go into it, but the Egyptians had a great amount of gold, man, and of wealth and abundance. If you was the Egyptian empire is arguably one of the most enticing and wealthy empires in history. Back then the Egyptian empire, it was I don't want to use that word. It was a hot spot, man. That's what everybody wanted to go. Let's go to Egypt. Right? Just like everybody want to go, let's go to the park, let's go do this. It's jumping down here. Everybody wanted to go to Egypt. Right? That's how it was flowing, man. It was a lot of people. But guess what? Moses forsook that treasures. He forsook those things. Chosen the reproach of Christ. Read on. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Right? So again, man, when we talk about, God forbid a Christian should just come up and just talk about the men of the Bible like they were sweet men. And we gonna get angry, man. Let somebody come out here and say, John the Baptist, he was a sweet man. I go through more than John the Baptist. Right? I'm better than him. We gonna get upset. We gonna say, what? No, we gonna shut that down, man. We gonna defend our forefathers. You will be a liar, man. These men, their lives is to be taken account thereof, man. For their life to be taken in consideration. Now let's go to the book of Luke chapter 7. So next time you complain about suffering, about hardships, about pain, go back to these accounts and really ask yourself if you could complain. If you could go through what Yahawasha went through without no, because Yahawasha didn't complain about what he went through. It wasn't, man, this truth was hard. I don't know about this. No, he endured it. He took it like a man. Right? He embraced it. Next time you go through sufferings and you really think you're going through something, you need to read over these accounts and compare yourself. Compare your life to Job. Right? And then see if you're really going through affliction, through sufferings, through what the prophets went through. Right? Let me bring this out. This is Luke chapter 7 and verse number 24. Luke 7 and 24. It reads, it says, and when the messengers of John were departed, he began to speak unto the people concerning John. What went ye out into the wilderness for to see? A reed shaken in the wind? Meaning what? A reed meaning what? John the Baptist, he wasn't a soft guy, man. Right? He wasn't no dude you could just walk all over. No, that wasn't happening. So the Lord is saying, hey, what you want to seek out a reed shaken in the wind? Meaning John the Baptist, he wasn't no soft guy. It says, but what ye went out for to see, a man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they which are gloriously apparelled and live delicately are in king's court. Because a lot of people think John the Baptist had on a long, nice, ancient garment. His garment was all white. It was long, no stains on it. And the Lord said, no, those type of men, they live in king's courts. They live in good, man. John the Baptist wasn't living good, man. He was thrown into prison, right? Those men, they was trying to get on him. And he got beheaded by Herod. Right? So don't just think these prophets is just some sweet old men. No, John the Baptist, he wasn't no sweet man, man. He was a mighty man of old, partaking in the sufferings of Yahawasha, and in the end is going to get a reward. Straight like that. It says, verse number 26, but when ye went out for to see a prophet, yeah, I say unto you, a much more than a prophet. This is he whom it is written, behold, I will send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy ways before me. For I say unto you, among those that are born among women, there is not a greater prophet than John the Baptist. See that? There's no greater prophet on the earth, born a woman, than John the Baptist. And the Lord even said himself, this what you went out to see, a man clothed in soft apparel. So it's a difference between how people view the prophets versus what actually they go through. Yahawasha, he knows what these men go through. Versus us that may be on the outside looking in, we just see the surface level. Right? Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. So we can get into it, man. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 24 and verse number 15. Right? It's Ezekiel chapter 24 and verse number 15. It says what? It says, also the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, behold, I take away from thee the desire of thy eyes with a stroke. Yet neither thou shalt mourn nor weep, neither shall thy tears run down. Forbear to cry, make no mourning for the dead. Bind the tire of thy head upon thee, and put on thy shoes upon thy feet, and cover not thy lips, and eat not the bread of men. So I spake unto the people in the morning, and at evening my wife died, and I did in the morning as I was commanded. You see what Ezekiel had to go through? And imagine the Lord tell you, right, he's finna kill your wife. Not only that, you can't even cry nor mourn. You got to deal with it. A lot of men, you would go off. You would say, most I can't cry. A lot of men, hey, and if you shed a cry, you're going to die, man, because you're going against the commandment of the Lord. A lot of you men, you will shed a tear, then the Most High might have to put you to death because he told you not to cry. Now we know this was set up as a sign, ultimately seeing that the desire of the eyes for the Jews would be their temple. We know that it was set up for a sign, but this literally happened. The Lord literally killed Ezekiel's wife and told him you can't cry and you can't mourn. How do you think Ezekiel felt, man? Right? Everybody want to regard their feelings. What about these men? How do you think he felt? Knowing that he probably loved his wife, which any man would, right? No man is just going to hate their wife and be with her. No, you're going to love your wife, man. Yet she dies and you can't mourn. You can't cry. You can't shed a tear because it's thus said the Lord. These are the sufferings Ezekiel had to go through, man. Ezekiel had to get ridiculed. He had to eat the dung cakes, right? But yet men is complaining, man. Hey, what happens if the Most High killed your wife, man? Would you be able to not cry? According to Ezekiel, what Ezekiel did. So we have to put respect on a prophet's names, man. We have to analyze their sufferings and how they endured it, and we have to commend it, man. If not, we have to strive to be like them, right? To be like the forefathers, right? Now reading on, it says, well, actually, I'm going to read that again. Right? Verse number 18, it says, so I spake it's like here. It says, so I spake unto the people in the morning, and at evening my wife died, and I did in the morning as I was commanded. So Ezekiel had to suffer, man. He had to suffer his wife dying. Again, this wasn't for himself. Ultimately, this was all so that the name of the Most High could be magnified through him, through Ezekiel. That's why when you read verse 19, it says, "And the people said unto me, Wilt thou not tell us what these things are to us that thou doest?" Then Ezekiel was going on to explaining why the Most High did this and why he's doing what he's doing. So guess what? We don't suffer for men, right? We don't suffer for women. We suffer that the name of the Most High could be magnified through these sufferings, that he could get all the honor and praise, that he could get all the glories. So by the time this video is over, your aspect on suffering is changed. It's a lot of things that this world has jammed up that people look at as bad, right? You don't. If we was to bring this before a damn Edomite and say, is having your wife die, is that good? Do that feel good? He gonna say no, man. But he don't even know the reward that Ezekiel the prophet is gonna obtain in the end for enduring this. Ezekiel didn't give up. He said, no, that's too hard. No, I'm not gonna be able to suffer like that, Lord. No, he took it on as a prophet, right? Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12, right? Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse number 15. 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse number 15. And Nathan departed into his house, and the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth, right? And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died, and the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. See that? So guess what? The Lord killed David's child, man. Right? Now we all knew it was prophesied through Nathan due to David going off. Nevertheless, what if the Most High killed your child, your only begotten son, right? If the Most High took him away. And what if the Most High took your daughter away? Would you still be able to stand boldly for the word of God? Would you still be able to endure this truth, man? Go hard. Again, these the sufferings of the men of the Bible. We can't say we the men of the scriptures, but we can't even do half the things that they go through. This should, in any wise, this should humble us, man. And consider what these men went through and embrace the obstacles that might come to us. Right? A David's child got killed. Any woman that has a miscarriage, or any man that has lost a child, you would know how that feel, man. Right? Hey, I don't have kids, man. But somebody that do have kids, they truly know how that feel. But yet David didn't cry. Right? David didn't curse the Most High and die and say, Lord, why the hell are you doing this to me? No, David, he worshiped God after this, man. When you read on, he went back to doing what he was doing. Right? Again, these are the manifold sufferings, right, in this truth. This is ultimately what the prophets went through on a day-to-day basis. Now, let's go to the book of Job. Right? Let's go to the book of Job. Chapter 2 and verse number... It's Job chapter 2 and verse number 7. We're not going to read the whole Job chapter 1 and 2, but it's straight to the point. It's Job chapter 2 and verse number 7. So Satan went So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. So guess what Job had to suffer? He had to suffer through boils, man. Imagine you got boiled. I mean, we read this, but imagine if this was you. Imagine you had boils all over your head, all the way down to your feet. Hey, half of you wouldn't even go outside because you're too scared what people think about you. You might say, nah, I'm going to look ugly. You might start crying. You're going to be depressed, man. I mean, you're going to be uncomely. Not going to want to go outside. You damn near going to stop going to work. If you do go to work, you got a damn hat on with a mask on, with glasses, with a damn ski mask on, and your whole body covered because you don't want nobody to see these boils. How you will complain? And you might curse the Most High and just give up the ghost. You might think your life is over with. Hey, Job, he endured these sufferings, man. He endured losing his kids. Hey, Job lost his kids. He lost his wife, man. Right? He lost his gold, his cattle, his abundance of wealth. And he endured. He suffered patiently. Right? That's the definition of endurance. Right? Again, these are many-fold sufferings. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 26. Right, let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 26, and verse, where is this? This Matthew chapter 27 and 29, right? This Matthew chapter 27 and 29. And when they had plaited a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand. So Yahawasha got a crown of thorns on his head, man. Again, we read this stuff, but we don't go in depth. When you go into it, and those crowns of thorns, those thorns could have been 2 inches to maybe 3 inches long, man. Imagine something like your finger going inside you. It wasn't just little bitty crowns of thorns around his head. No, the Lord had them thorns going in his head and sticking out. Nothing but blood everywhere all over his face. And when you go into it, if you have the crown of thorns punishment, they say you can't even think correctly. You barely could breathe. You really paralyzed. Your whole face is paralyzed. So you can't even talk if you wanted to. That's what Yahawasha had to go through, man. For you, just so you could come into this truth. Damn thorns sticking out his damn face. Yeah, you got people that don't even believe in the Lord. Not only that, he got beat up. He got jumped. Imagine you get jumped, man. At Yahawasha, he got jumped. Right? They spit on him. He couldn't even bear his cross. He was weak. He was finished. They damn fed him, tried to give him vinegar. They was still mocking him at the end of the day. Got his damn hands pierced in. And when you go into it, the piercing had to be right here, because if the piercing in your hand, that means it will rip right through. So he got his damn veins in his wrists pierced through. But the Lord didn't complain yet. Right, Salakia. So with that, we gotta give all honor and glory to the Most High, man. And we should be on fire for that. Again, it says, and when they plaited a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. And they spit upon him and took the reed and smote him on his head. So they were spitting on him. They was down hitting him in the head, punching him, knocking him on the head. Hey, the Lord was probably knocked out for 30 minutes, man. He probably went unconscious for about 5 to 6 minutes, man. just knocked out. And this what Yahawasha, he had to suffer, man. Yet you got men on the earth, they saying, we had men come up to count and say, I am Yahawasha. Hey, I am the Lord, I am Jesus Christ. Right? I am the Lord thy God. Hey, that's madness, man. Hey, you the Lord, you Yahawasha. Hey, I dare these men, they can't go through 1/4 of what the Lord went through. Yeah, you got men coming up to camp saying, yeah, I am Jesus Christ on the earth. Right? Hey, these are what you call fools, man. And those men are going to be destroyed by the Most High. The Lord not dealing with that. So next time you go into the sufferings, you have to go into the sufferings of Yahawasha. I mean, that's a must, right? You have to go into the sufferings of Job. You have to go into the sufferings of Isaiah, right? You have to go into the sufferings of Jeremiah. Let's go to the book of Jeremiah, right? Chapter 38. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 38, and verse. This is Jeremiah, chapter 38, and verse number 6. I'm going to start at verse 5. This is Jeremiah, chapter 38, and verse 5. Then Zedekiah the king said, behold, he is in your hand, for the king is not he that can do anything against you. Then took they Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon of Mockery. So Jeremiah was in a dungeon, man, with mud down there. It probably stink down there. There was no food or no water down there. And he got cast into the dungeon. It says, the son of Hamarek, which was in the court of the prison, and they let down Jeremiah with cords, and in the dungeon there was no water but mire. So Jeremiah sunk in the mire, man. So Jeremiah was in there sinking in the mud and the damn miry clay. He could have died in there, man. Again, it could have stinked in there. These are the sufferings of Jeremiah, plus more. Right? These are the sufferings of the prophets. So the question is, are you truly suffering, man? Or are you going through light sufferings? Are you going through easy sufferings? Things that could be handled without complaint. Things and rather things that should be embraced. Right? And you gotta embrace when you catch hell, man. You gotta embrace when your wife buck up against you, right? You gotta deeply inside, you go down, you thank the Most High for putting you through that situation. Because it could have been worse. The damn the tire busts off your wheels. And you gotta thank the Lord for that, man. All hell breaking loose, demons trying to attack you, Satan tempts you at a workplace. And you gotta thank the Lord for that, man. You fasting for down 4 days. You getting tempted, but you trying to go on the 5th day, but you damn give up. You damn thinking about giving up. And you gotta scream out the name of the Lord. You gotta scream out Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Omadak Yahawasha to the top of your lungs, man. So people down the street can hear you. Why? Because your sufferings don't even compare to half of the sufferings of the prophets. Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4 and 12. Right? Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse number 12. Right, it's the book of 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse number 12. And it reads, it says, beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing had happened to you. So ultimately, when you suffer, you can't think that a strange thing is happening to you. Wow, what is this? This sufferings? This is new. You can't think that strange because the Lord already told you it's going to happen. It says what? But rejoice, inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. So if you partakers, if you're not suffering right now, you're not going to partake in the joy when the glory comes back. You're not going to partake in that reward. Why? Because you didn't put in that work. You didn't suffer during this time. But if you're suffering, it's like it's never ending. It's something every single day. The Lord said you have to rejoice, right? It says because what? But rejoice that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached by the name of Christ, happy are ye, for the spirit of glory and of God rested upon you. On their part, he is evil spoken of, but on your part is he glorified. See that? And that's deep, man. Because you might think when these things are happening, that it's like you're an evil man. You're not doing something right. Well, that's not all the time. Ultimately, when these things has happened, you might be spoken evil of, but the Most High is really being glorified. Right? Verse number 15. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Right? Because you have certain men, they go through things, it seems like they suffering. But when you ask more questions, a brother might say, well, yeah, I got locked up. Right? I just got locked up today. I just got out, man. Right? Man, all praise to the Most High. I knew I was suffering. Then you ask the brother, well, brother, why did you get locked up? You would think the brother locked up, he was teaching. Esau didn't want to hear that. They called the police on him. They locked him up. His parents called the police on him. He didn't want to eat pork. You ask the brother, well, brother, why did you get locked up? Then he said, well, I mean, I was in the store and I guess they seen me on the camera. I was down slipping in some Skittles, right? And some trash bags. Well, brother, you gonna tell that, well, brother, you not really suffering, brother. You was off. That's a judgment. What do you mean you was suffering, brother? No, you was stealing in a grocery store. The police got called and you got locked up. Yeah, you got certain men, they suffering for being ungodly. No, brother, that's judgment. The Lord is judging you, right? You just offended somebody. You just offended a brother. And the truth. Then you go home and say, yeah, my wheels fell off my car today. Well, brother, that's not suffering. You just offended a brother, right? You hurt his feelings, right? The Most High is judging you, right? So it says what? It says, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, as a thief, or as an evildoer, right? So you're not, when you suffer as an evildoer, that's not true sufferings. Right? Stop playing yourself, man. You over here saying, yeah, I'm catching hell. No, brother, you just didn't read in 3 days. You're not catching hell. Right? Yeah, I got demons on me. No, brother, you don't got demons on you for righteousness. You didn't go on a fast for a week. It says, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Verse 16. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on his behalf. So if you suffering as a Christian, what's a true Christian? It's not talking about your Christian pastor. A Christian just means a follower of Christ. So if you suffering as a follower of Yahawasha and in righteousness, and then you have to give all honor and glory to the Lord, man. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 8. So suffering is not bad, man. Get this westernized mindset of suffering is bad out of your head. God said, when you suffer, rejoice. Right? This Romans chapter 8 and verse 18. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. So all of the sufferings that you're going through right now and the sufferings to come, ultimately all of the sufferings that the prophets had to go through, that wasn't even comparable to what the kingdom of heaven is going to have in store for you for going through those sufferings. That's not even compared to all of the gold, the royalty, the honor, the dominion, the power that you're going to have in the kingdom to come. So those should be your thoughts. Next time you suffer, you got to meditate on this, man. Stop beating up yourself and you getting depressed. And you having a fit and you complaining. And you saying, why am I even in this truth, man? I didn't come in here for that. That means your mind is bad. That means you're not in the spirit. What manner of spirit are ye in? You know not what manner of spirit ye are of. That's what the Lord said to the disciples in Luke chapter 9 and 55. So it says, for I reckon that the sufferings, I'm going to start at verse 17, Romans 8 and 17. And if children, then heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. So if you suffer with Christ, you suffer like Christ. When the Lord gets his floor, the glory and dominion in the kingdom, you're going to also be glorified with the Lord. Right? For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waiteth for the manifestation of the sons of God. Right? So again, you have to be thinking about these things, especially in the last days, right, and in the times to come. But with that, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High Yahawah, by Hashem Mashiach Omadak Yahawasha. Lord willing, this video was edifying. Continue to read, pray, fast, and study. Most importantly, beseech the Heavenly Father for his mercy. With that, I'm going to say shalom.